and a bunch of beautiful faces. Good to see you this morning. Good to be here. We finally have a normal Sunday. Been back for 3 weeks, and we've had a commissioning and a decommissioning and a baptism, and those are all awesome, and now we get to have a normal, regular Sunday. And I had a sermon all planned for this Sunday, and halfway through the week, I kind of felt like God was saying, that's not the sermon for this Sunday, and I was kind of arguing because I didn't want to go in another direction, and the next day I went in another direction, and so this is the different direction. So this is not what was promised last week if you're expecting the sermon on the bride of Christ. That'll come another time. But this morning we're going to start a little series we're going to do this summer called Soul Searching. And I want to spend about 4 sermons or so this summer talking about our souls. And a lot of this comes out of my sabbatical and, a process of soul searching that I went through in that time. And there's probably nothing more valuable than we could talk about, right, than our souls. We know our souls are important. We hear less and less about them. We sing songs. Bless the Lord, O my soul. We sing, it is well with my soul. But soul language is kind of slowly disappearing from our world. If you look at older translations of the Bible, the King James uses the word soul almost 500 times. And you see over the centuries and over the decades how the word soul is being translated differently. And you can translate that word in different ways. It's not right or wrong, but it reflects the world we live in. We don't actually talk about our souls so much. And yet, if I would ask you, you would know your soul is important. It is the most important thing about you. It is who you are. We know what Jesus says about our souls. He says, what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? And if he loses it, what shall a man give in return for his soul? So if you're an ambitious person at all in life, then this word is a warning to you. It's a warning to me. If you want to be a huge farmer or a popular pastor, Jesus asks this question, is it worth getting what you want if it's going to cost you your soul? And if you would lose your soul, how are you going to get it back? Do you have enough money to buy your soul back? So we know our soul is valuable. What is our soul? If I gave you a whiteboard and a marker and I said, I want you to draw a diagram of what our soul is, we might draw a circle with a body and a little circle inside and say, that's your soul. That's kind of a way of thinking that comes from Plato and Aristotle and actually not so much from Scripture. I've toyed with this for weeks of thinking about how would I draw a picture of my body, my mind, my heart, my spirit, and my soul. Which one is at the center? Is it the soul is at the very center, and then there's your spirit and your mind and your body? Some people draw it that way. Some people put the soul on the outside. It's all of who you are. I don't have an answer. That's why I have no diagram for you. I don't know how to draw a perfect picture that explains exactly what our soul is, but we have it. We know it. It is us. Our soul is who we are. Your soul is who you are at the deepest and most important level. It is the real you. Your soul is the starting point for every decision you make, every thought you have, every action you take or don't take comes from your soul. And our soul is also shaped by every decision we make, every action we take or don't take, every thought we engage. And so maybe it's most helpful to think about our souls as that which is kind of below the surface, or maybe our inner world. And so we all have an outer world and we have an inner world. And in your outer world, you have your job. You have your relationship with your spouse, your kids, your friends, your hobbies, when you go watch a movie or you go for a walk, when you go to church, when you eat meals. All of that is your outer world. And you say, well, if that's my outer world, what's left for the inner world? Well, the inner world is your soul. What is behind, what is below all of our outer world. Dallas Willard says, what is running your life at any given moment is your soul. It's not external circumstances. Not your thoughts, not your intentions, not even your feelings, but your soul. Kind of like a computer program that runs behind the scenes. You don't actually see the computer program, but it's running your computer. You may not actually see your soul, but it's running your life. And so our souls demand attention in order to be healthy. But often our outer world is so demanding. There's more there than we can handle already. We don't have time to attend to our souls. And so our souls get neglected. They get disintegrated. Jesus told a parable about this. He said, "The land of a rich man produced plentifully, and he thought to himself, 'What shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops.'" What the greatest problem a farmer can ever have. And he said, "I'll do this, I'll tear down my barns and build build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods." So his outer life is great. And because his outer life is great, he thinks his inner life is great as well. And so he says, "I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry.' But God said to him, 'Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be?' So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God." And so the man who is not paying attention to his inner life, to his soul, God calls that man a fool. You think your soul is in good shape, but it's not. And so this is a picture of a ruined soul. Sometimes we talk about lost souls. A lost soul is not just a soul that's going to hell when it dies. It's a soul that's already lost, that's already in a state of being ruined because they've neglected the inner life. Sometimes we see pictures of these houses, often down in Florida. It's a beautiful house, and you see a picture the next day, and all of a sudden a sinkhole has opened up below the house, and the house has collapsed. The day before, everything was good. Every cabinet closed perfectly. Everything was straight. But the deep life was in disarray, and it collapsed. That's a disintegrated soul. I want to give you 3 little quick snapshots of what a lost soul looks like. This little book by John Ortberg on soul keeping has been one of many that's been valuable to me in the recent months. This is a picture of 3 pictures of a lost soul. A woman, a man, and a pastor. So we're all covered here. He says, "A few years ago, I was asked to speak at the church of a pastor in the Deep South whose success had made him famous. Pictures of him with famous people and framed covers of his best-selling books lined his office walls. But now he was beyond the age when most people retire. His church was shrinking, his influence was waning, and he was miserable. When I met this pastor, he began to tell me how wrong his critics were, even though I hardly knew him or his critics. He chastised his people for not bringing enough visitors to fill the empty seats. 'I'm tired of looking at empty seats,' he said, as if the goal of church is empty seat avoidance. He had climbed to remarkable heights in church ministry, but his mind was preoccupied by bitter thoughts. His face attempted smiles that were disconnected from his feelings, and his will strained to maintain a facade that had been hollowed out long ago. His soul was disintegrating. I thought of another man, a businessman who devoted his life to making money. His children always knew they had less priority than his job. He never said so, of course, but our deepest devotions simply leak out of our bodies by how we spend our time and what makes us smile and what claims our energy. The man built a corporate empire, but his employees all felt used. He and his wife bought a magnificent home overlooking the ocean in Southern California. He had a stroke. No one came to visit him. He sits in a wheelchair now, breathing from an oxygen tank, alone in a mansion cage. He still obsesses over what he owns and remains incapable of gratitude or generosity. This is the ruined soul. A mom struggles to create the perfect home. Her husband does not help much. She doesn't tell him how much she resents it, mostly because she's been afraid of conflict. She's angry at her children for not being perfect, for not being on track to get into the right school, for not making her look good as a mom. She's angry at her body for aging. Feeling attractive has been the one unforced sense of worth in her life, and it is ebbing away. She withdraws. She drinks a little too much. She gossips with her friends about her other friends. She finds ways to fill time. She thinks that the problem is her husband or her kids or her age, but it's not. It is her soul. So can we pay attention to our souls? Do those warning stories remind us that I have a soul within me that needs attention? This was the gift of my sabbatical, and something I'm hoping to pass on to us, that, much of my outer world was stripped away in February. Stripped away sounds harsh. It was gently taken away. The church gave me a few months off to attend to my soul. And those were not the words of the elders, but it's what happened. And it's interesting what happens when so much is removed from your life. I always struggled with having a solid morning devotional time. I usually woke up in the morning and the first thought in my mind was often, I'm already behind on everything I have to do today. I had this big mental list that I needed to do, and so I'd spend a minute or two in prayer in the morning. I might read my Bible during breakfast. More small prayers throughout the day. I'd pray before I sit down to work on my sermon. I'd pray with other people and pray for other people, and I did read, but nothing that was really feeding my soul. And the problem was all the things I had to do. Not enough time, not enough energy to really go deep with God. My outer world was so big and full that it prevented me from attending to my inner world. Or so I thought. It was really interesting in those first few weeks of sabbatical, where I woke up with no list of things to do. And you know what? I still didn't want to pray. And I still didn't want to read my Bible. And I still didn't want to just sit with the Lord for a few hours. See, the problem was not my outer world of all the things that are keeping away. The problem was my inner world. The problem was me. It was my soul. And so I learned something in that time. There's a great quote by Jim Carrey. I think I've shared it before. An actor and comedian who's made tens of millions of dollars. He says, I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see it's not the answer. What a good piece of wisdom from that man. I made up my own quote. I wish everyone could get rid of all the obstacles in their life so they can see that the obstacles were never the problem. See, when my to-do list was removed and I still didn't have peace, it forced me to go and do some real soul searching. And God met me over time, not in a day, but over time, and slowly over time, He brought healing to my soul. He brought a change of heart. He brought a change of thinking. He brought a change of behaviors. And I found some healing in my soul. And I'm not all healed and perfect. I am very much in progress. But things are different now. I love my time with the Lord in the mornings. I have long, leisurely devotions that I genuinely enjoy and look forward to. It's not even a discipline most days. That's not how I got there. I didn't get there by reading my Bible and praying, but it was the result of giving my soul to God in some new ways. And so it's time for us to pay attention to our souls. Ortberg says, you and no one else is responsible for the well-being of your own soul. I am the keeper of my soul. I cannot blame my wife or my kids or my job or the economy or the church or the devil. I cannot blame anyone or anything. I alone am responsible to take care of my soul. And so I want to invite you over the next number of weeks to attend to your souls. Are you willing to take a look inside and see what you might find? And if you're willing, I want to invite you this morning to come with me to look at a parable. We often call this the parable of the four soils, but we're going to change one little vowel in there, and we're going to make it the parable of the four souls. And so I invite you to listen and think about your own soul as we go through this parable. Jesus says, a farmer went out to sow his seed. And so the picture is of an ancient farmer sowing seed by just throwing it on the ground, and that's how you did it. You just threw it everywhere. And there's lots of seed, and he throws it out generously, and the seed goes everywhere. I have many elm trees on my yard, and if you come on my yard on a windy day in May, it looks like it is snowing. They are just pouring these seeds out of the elm trees. And they get so much, they collect behind my house. I literally use a snow shovel to clean up the seeds. There's that many seeds. And wherever they land, that takes so little for one of those seeds, they will find a root. In the middle of my crushed rock driveway, you will see a little elm tree growing up. So there's lots of seed, and it's very persistent seed. It will grow quite easily. And so we have this picture of this farmer just throwing seed all over the place, just looking for the right soil. And it says, as he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. We call this the hardened soul. See, the path has been trampled down by people and animals walking along this path, back and forth, until it is rock hard and nothing can grow in it. This is the hardened soil. And there are also hardened souls. And often, souls got that way the same way the soil did, because they've been trampled on over and over. And when we have been hurt deeply, or hurt often, or even worse, hurt deeply often, we tend to develop a hard coating around the outside of our soul. We do this most obviously because we don't want to be hurt. We are afraid of being hurt again, and so we harden our soul. I have many areas where I've been hurt, where I've been trampled on. And yet I can't forget that I and I alone am still responsible for my own soul. John Ortberg says, the world diverts my soul attention when it encourages me to think of myself more as a victim than as a human. Catch that line? To think of myself more as a victim than as a human. I am so wrapped up in the hurt I have received that I do not notice the hurt I inflict. And so we see this happen with regularity. We are hurt by someone, and so we harden our soul, not just to them, but to anyone else, so that they cannot hurt me. And I'm not talking about healthy boundaries to protect you from abuse or things like that. I'm talking about hurt relationships, hurt egos, and the hardness that comes when we only live in our hurts. We get hard. And so in a world where victimhood has become status, souls go unexamined for hardness. What a line. In a world where victimhood has become status, who can be the biggest victim? Souls go unexamined for hardness. And I'll say I feel deeply for those who have been hurt. I am present in those stories every week, and I literally feel your pain. And yet my plea is to not let the enemy have two victories. The first victory was when you were hurt. Whatever happened, the enemy loved that. He won that one. You got hurt. But the second victory is when we respond to our hurt by hardening our soul. Don't give the enemy that second victory. It's a hard battle, I know, but that seed is strong. And so if you sense this hardened soul within you, I want to encourage you to break up the ground just a little. Just spend a little bit of time soul searching with Jesus. Simply acknowledging your hardened soul is most of the battle. It's a big step anyways, of just sitting down with Jesus and saying, I acknowledge I have hardened my soul. And I'm not blaming anyone else. This is how I have responded. And so I acknowledge this before you. My soul is hard. A heartfelt prayer loosens the ground just a little. A little kindness towards that person, as difficult as it is, will loosen the hardness of your soul. And you say, well, that's not easy. I know it's not. It's not easy for me either. But remember, it is your soul that is at stake here. And if you can't do kindness, try a little prayer for that person. You don't have to go through your hard soul with a 12-inch deep tiller and wreck it all up, but just start to break away at some of that hardness. And when you do that, God meets you in a beautiful way. He is so gentle and so kind. He says, yes, I see your soul has been hard, and yes, I will help something grow in that newly found, just that little soft place that you're giving to me. So that's the hardened soul. But that's not the only battle that our souls face this morning. He says, some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow, but when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they were withered because they had no root. We call this the shallow soul. And here the problem is not that the top layer of the soul is hard, but that it's not very deep. It looks like nice topsoil to you and to others, even to ourselves, but an inch down, it's just rock. It's really a hardened soul. It just has a little layer on the top that looks good to us and looks good to others. And so there's a call for us to attend to our souls and help them to go deep. Ortberg says, my soul becomes shallow when my interests and thoughts go no further than myself. A person should be deep because life itself is deep. A deep soul has the capacity to understand and empathize deeply with other people, not just himself. See, little children, they're not by nature deep. They only see and interact with what's on the surface. They don't have a concept of the depth that surrounds them. A 3-year-old is only concerned with the toy that they have or the candy that they don't have. And that's okay because they're 3. But as we grow and mature, we're called to depth. It's not okay anymore to stay shallow with God, to stay shallow with others, to stay shallow with myself. We live in a world that thrives on the superficial, that top inch, the surface level. But we're called to be different, to recognize the depth of the soul within me and the depth of the soul within the person that I'm talking to. But fear is at work here as well, right? Just like it is with the hard soul. We're afraid of being hurt, so we harden our soul. Here, we might be afraid of what we might find in ourselves if we really do go deep. See, on the surface, I'm pretty easy to deal with. I look at myself in the mirror, and I look at the top inch of my life, and I say, looks awesome. But will I give God permission to visit the deepest places of my soul? And what might be uncovered when I get down there that maybe I didn't really want to find out or that I didn't want to deal with? We're not only afraid of going deep with ourselves, but about going deep with others. It's so much easier to deal with everybody else on the surface level. I'll just deal with the top inch of all of you. You're good, you're bad, you can come close, you I can ignore. It's a very shallow way of dealing with people. But when I allow my deep, deep soul to recognize that the person I'm talking to is also a deep, deep soul, I might have to treat that person differently. To recognize that this person is perhaps as deeply conflicted and troubled as I am. Psalm 42 says, as deep calls out to deep. This is where God meets us. God can do very little with a shallow soul if we only give him the top inch of our life. But if we go to those deep places, we find again, we meet God there in deeper and richer ways than we have ever met him before. And so we battle a hardened soul and we battle a shallow soul. And finally, we battle a cluttered soul. Other seed fell among thorns which grew up and choked the plants. And this one, like the other two, I think all 3 of these are a threat to all of us. Jesus calls the thorns the worries of life. Someone once said, if the devil can't make you sin, he'll make you busy, because either way your soul will shrivel. The busyness of life makes very little room to pay attention to our soul. It was really nice for me to have a sabbatical for a few months, but not everyone gets that. And I won't get another one for many more years. So what am I going to do until then? Our lives are full, too full, and I have no one to blame but myself. You are only as busy as you choose to be. If we really want to get rid of some of the clutter in our lives, some of the things that scream for our attention and prevent us from actually attending to our souls, we can get rid of them. No one's holding a gun to our heads, forcing us to be unbearably busy or constantly distracted and entertained on our phones. But these thorns will choke out the life of our soul if we let them. Busyness is not an excuse for me to ignore my soul and the deep things that need to happen in that place. If I actually care about the state of my soul, I will work things into my schedule where I can be alone and uninterrupted with God on a regular basis so that I can pay attention to my soul. I will make time with a brother or sister who I can go deep with and say, this is my life. This is the deepest part of me. I want to share this with you because I care about my soul and I need you to care about it with me. But if we are to attend to our souls, we may have to declutter. And finally, we get the hopeful vision at the end. This is what a healthy soul looks like. Still other seed fell on good soil where it produced a good crop, 160 or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. And so this is the promise to those who will actually attend to their souls, to those who will resist the hardening of their souls, who will break up that rocky surface just a little. This is the promise. To those who will go deep with God and with others and will bear their soul to someone else and say, could you be part of my healing process? This is the promise. To those who will cut out the clutter in their life, the screen time or whatever it is, and prioritize regular time to attend to the deepest parts of who they are. This is the great promise. This is fruitful living with a healthy soul. And I'll tell you, I still battle all three of these regularly, but the more I engage in this battle, the healthier my soul becomes. So I don't know which of these four you are this morning. Probably you see yourself in all these places. But when we bear our naked soul to God, when we stand before God with no fig leaves covering our most vulnerable parts, we are met with a God who clothes us with love, and our soul begins to heal. It won't all be comfortable. Part of this is kind of your laying naked on the operating table, waiting for surgery. But you give permission to the healer and you say, do whatever needs doing in me. And so this is the invitation for us coming into this summer, to attend to our souls, to say, okay, God, do whatever you need to do. And the big surprise is that He is far gentler than you think. He is far kinder than you think. You think it's going to be so painful to deal with all this hard stuff in your soul, and you realize, oh, it's joyful. You met me and you're good and you've healed me. So that is my invitation. He forgives those deep places in us that need forgiving. He heals the hurts that have hampered us for so long. He will help you break up that hard ground. He restores meaning where we've lost our purpose. He meets us in the deepest places if we're willing to remove the clutter and go there with Him. And our souls were meant to be with God. We're going to talk about this next week. But the first step on that journey, and I think always the next step, is simply to attend to our souls. To bring our souls before God and say, search me and know me. I won't hide anything. Uncover whatever you want to uncover because I know it's going to be good for me. I will trust myself. I will trust my soul to this process. I will trust it to you and to your goodness. And so this is what I want to invite you on just today, to think about what might it look like this week to begin to attend to your soul in a new way, to give God that space, to make room for Him to come and do what He wants to do within you. You will be pleasantly surprised on the journey at how good He is and how gently He will heal your soul. So I want to invite you on that this morning. Let's pray. Father, you have created us to know you, to be in perfect relationship with you. And we confess that often we have neglected our souls. We have neglected our inner lives, what is most important to us. We have been swamped with our outer world and our outer circumstances, and we have neglected to look deep inside. And so forgive us for that, Lord. But now we want to look to you. We want to acknowledge the places where we have allowed our souls to get hard, where we've prevented them from going deep, where they've been cluttered, all the things, Lord, where we have neglected our souls. And this morning we want to attend to them. This week we want to attend to our souls in a new way. And you will gently guide and lead each and every one of us in what that looks like. And so I thank you for this journey that we can embark on today. And I thank you that you are gentle and kind and you meet us. And we just want to make room for you, Jesus, to do what you want to do. Amen.